Okay, so you want to own a yacht. Teak decks warmed by the sun, a glass of something cold in your hand, the crew moving quietly in the background while the coastline slides by. That's the picture. That's what the brokerage brochures sell you. And it's not entirely a lie. Here's what those brochures don't put on the cover. The bilge pump that fails at 2 in the morning off the coast of Sardinia. The engine survey that turns up a problem nobody mentioned during the sale. The dockmaster's invoice that arrives the same week as the crew's payroll. And the fact that most yacht owners will spend more on upkeep in a single year than most people spend on a house, and never once turn a profit doing it. There's an old rule that gets repeated constantly in this industry. It's called the 10% rule, and it says that owning a yacht costs roughly 10% of the purchase price every single year, just to keep it running. By the end of this, you'll understand exactly why that number is true, why it's all so dangerously misleading, who actually walks away with the money in this business, and why one of the richest people on Earth willingly spends tens of millions a year on something he knows will never make him a dollar. Before we talk numbers, ask any yacht broker who's been in the business more than a decade what the 2 happiest days of ownership are, and they'll usually give you the same answer without missing a beat. The day you buy it, and the day someone else finally does. Before we get to why brokers say that, we need to talk about what a yacht actually is, because the word covers a lot of very different boats. A motor yacht is the classic image. Engine-powered, fast, comfortable, typically 30 to 80 feet for a private owner. A sailing yacht relies primarily on wind, generally cheaper to run but slower and more weather dependent. Above both of those sits the super yacht category, generally anything over 80 feet, and the mega yacht category above that, often 200 feet or more, which is really a small floating hotel with a crew payroll to match. The size class you buy into determines almost everything else about the economics, so we'll focus mainly on the mid-size motor yacht, the 80 to 150 foot range, which is where most serious private owners actually live. Let's talk about the number that gets all the attention first, the purchase price. A new build in the 80 to 100 foot range from a reputable European yard will typically run you somewhere between $8 and $20 million. Depending on finish level and builder reputation. Go up to the 150-foot range and you're looking at 30 to 60 million. The brokerage market, meaning previously owned vessels, can offer real savings, sometimes 40 to 50% off original build cost for a boat 5 to 10 years old, because yachts depreciate hard and fast in their first decade, much like a car, just with several more zeros attached. But the purchase price is really just your ticket to the game. It's the down payment on a much larger, much less visible bill. Here's where the 10% rule comes from, and here's why it exists. Crew is usually the single largest recurring cost. A boat in the 80 to 100 foot range typically needs a captain, an engineer, a chef, and 2 to 4 additional crew for deck and interior duties. Combined annual salaries for a crew of 6 to 8, including the captain, commonly run between $600,000 and $1.2 million a year. And that's only the people. The boat hasn't cost you $1 yet. There's a saying among captains that sums up the whole arrangement better than any spreadsheet could. You don't own the yacht. The yacht owns your calendar. Every decision, from where you spend August to who you hire and fire, starts to revolve around keeping the vessel running. Then there's berthing. A marina slip for a boat this size in a premium location, Monaco, the French Riviera, South Florida, can run anywhere from $15,000 to over $100,000 a year. And that's before you've moved the boat an inch. Fuel is next, and it is not subtle. A large motor yacht can burn anywhere from 50 to 200 gallons per hour at cruising speed, which means a single Mediterranean season of real use can put you $60,000 or more into fuel costs alone. Insurance on a vessel this size typically runs 1 to 1.5% of the boat's value annually. So on a $15 million yacht, you're looking at roughly $150,000 to $200,000 a year just to keep it covered. That's already well over $1 million, and we haven't even opened the engine room. And here's the fact that stops most first-time buyers cold. On a large super yacht, a single set of retractable stabilizers can cost more to replace than a new Ferrari. One paint job, done properly, can run $500,000. And on the largest vessels, the anchor chain alone can weigh more than a fully loaded delivery truck. These aren't exotic outliers, these are routine line items. Then there's the part that catches almost every new owner off guard: refits. Every 4 to 5 years, a serious yacht needs a haul out, a full mechanical inspection, hull treatment, and often an interior refresh to keep the vessel's value and charter appeal intact. A meaningful refit on a mid-size yacht can run anywhere from $500,000 to $2 million. depending on scope, and it does not care whether you were planning for it. Add it up. Crew, berthing, fuel, insurance, maintenance, provisioning, and the slow drip of smaller repairs, and you land almost exactly at that 10% figure. On a $15 million yacht, that's roughly $1.5 million a year, every year, whether you use the boat for 3 months or 3 weeks. Here's the part that separates yacht ownership from almost every other asset we've covered on this channel. There is no revenue model that reliably covers that number. This is not a rental property. This is not a business with customers walking through a door. Most private yacht owners never even try to make the boat pay for itself, but some do, and this is where almost every new owner has the exact same idea. Maybe the yacht can pay for itself. Almost none of them succeed, and understanding why tells you everything about how this business actually works. It works through what's called the charter market. An owner can place their yacht into a charter management program, renting it out to paying guests when they're not using it themselves, typically through a broker who takes a commission of 15 to 20%. A well-positioned 80 to 100-foot yacht can command charter rates of $80,000 to $150,000 per week during peak Mediterranean or Caribbean season. Book that out for 8 to 10 weeks a year, and you're looking at gross charter revenue of $600,000 to $1.5 million. Against annual operating costs north of $1 million, that revenue meaningfully offsets the bill, but it comes with real trade-offs. Charter guests wear the boat down faster. You lose access to your own yacht during exactly the weeks you'd most want it, and the tax and legal structuring required to run a compliant charter operation adds another layer of cost and complexity that most private owners underestimate going in. If you want proof that this math holds even at the very top of the market, look at one of the most famous yachts ever built. Eclipse, constructed for Russian billionaire Roman Abramovich, is reported to have cost around $1.5 billion to build. Its annual running costs are widely cited in the range of $50 to $70 million a year, a crew numbering well over 70. Security systems, and maintenance on a scale that has no real equivalent outside a small naval vessel. Almost nobody who buys a yacht operates anywhere near that scale, but the case is useful precisely because it's so well documented. It shows the same 10% pattern holding true at the very top of the market. The math doesn't change. Only the zeros do, which brings us to the real question sitting underneath all of this. If the boat almost never pays for itself, where does the money actually go? Here's the honest answer. Almost everywhere except back to the owner. The marina collects its fee whether the boat leaves the slip or not. The insurer collects its premium whether a claim is ever filed. The shipyard collects on every refit, scheduled or not. The fuel supplier gets paid at the dock every single time. The crew agency earns a fee every time a position turns over, and turnover is constant. The charter broker takes a cut off the top of every booking before the owner sees a cent. Flag state authorities collect fees annually, regardless of how the season went. Everyone in this chain gets paid on a predictable basis. Everyone else in this business owns a business. The owner just owns the bill. Let's build the two honest scenarios. In the good year, you own a $15 million motor yacht, you've placed it in a charter program, and you book 9 weeks at an average of $110,000 a week. That's just under $1 million in gross charter revenue. After broker commission and charter-specific costs, you net roughly $700,000. Your annual operating costs land around $1.3 million for the year, since there was no major refit required. Net cost of ownership for the year, roughly $600,000. Plus the boat is fully insured, well-maintained, and you got 3 weeks of personal use somewhere in the Mediterranean. And then, in July, everything changes. In the bad year, the same boat needs its 5-year refit, running $1.1 million. Charter bookings come in soft, only 5 weeks at a lower average rate because of a slow season. Netting maybe $350,000 after commission. Your engineer resigns mid-season, and it takes 6 weeks and a costly agency fee to replace him, during which the boat sits idle and still burns money on berthing and insurance. Total operating and refit costs for the year land around $2.6 million. Net cost of ownership over $2 million in a single year on a boat that spent more time in dry dock than at sea. That gap, roughly $1.5 million between a good year and a bad year on the exact same asset, is the entire story of yacht ownership condensed into one number. And unlike a ranch or a rental property, there's no land underneath a yacht quietly appreciating in the background to soften the blow. Most yachts lose 30 to 40% of their value in the first 5 years, and continue declining steadily after that, refits included. So here's the honest question. If the numbers rarely work in the owner's favor, and nearly everyone around the transaction gets paid before the owner ever sees a return, why does anyone actually buy one? The answer is the same answer that shows up again and again in this series when the operating numbers don't work. It isn't really about the asset. It's about what owning the asset buys you access to. A slip in Monaco harbor during Grand Prix week, a seat at a table most people never get invited to, the ability to host a conversation on your own deck instead of someone else's restaurant. The wealthiest owners understand something everyone else misses. The yacht was never what they were buying. They were buying the room it lets them walk into, which is exactly why eventually the happiest day is still the day someone else finally does.